Nine o'clock here on your Tuesday, February 21st. Thanks for being with us as we recap what happened in the courtroom today in the Alec Murdaugh double murder trial. The disgraced attorney accused of shooting and killing his wife Maggie and son Paul in June of 2021. Now, after we go over today's testimony, we're going to be joined by criminal defense attorney Lori Murray for her take on the latest developments in the courtroom. On the witness stand today, Buster Murdaugh. He testified that his family all talked to each other multiple times a day on the phone, telling the jury how he learned that his mother and brother Paul had been killed. Take a listen.
And he called me on the phone. He asked me if I was sitting down, and I was like, yeah. And then he sounded odd, and then he told me that my mom and brother had been shot.
And when you got there, did you see your dad?
Yes, sir.
What kind of condition was he in? What was his demeanor?
Yeah, his demeanor was, he was destroyed. He was heartbroken. I walked in the door and saw him and gave him a hug and just broken down.
Could he speak?
Not really.
Was he crying?
Yes, sir.
Under cross-examination, Buster Murdaugh testified that he first learned about his father's financial difficulties following that roadside shooting incident in September of 2021. He was also asked about that boating accident involving his brother and how it was affecting the family.
You went to Wofford?
I did go to
The boating accident that Mr. Griffin asked you about, that was pressure on the family, wasn't it?
I don't know that pressure's the right word. I mean, it's definitely an uneasy feeling. You know, your brother is criminally charged, and then you, myself, and my father have civil charges. I mean, definitely unsettling.
I mean, it caused stress within the family, didn't it?
It was stressful. I wouldn't say within the family, because I mean, we supported each other. And
Sure.
And following Buster Murdaugh's testimony, Mike Sutton took the stand. He is a forensic engineer who works in accident reconstruction. He analyzed bullet holes on different structures at the Murdaugh property to determine where shots were fired and from what angle. Sutton testified that his analysis suggests a much shorter shooter than Alec Murdaugh.
That's correct. Can you say to a degree of engineering certainty, more probably than not, that whoever shot this shot, or these shots, well, first of all, the quail pen shot was 5'2" to 5'4"?
That is the most likely explanation, yes.
Okay. And we know that Alec is 6'4".
Yes.
Sutton also testified that someone at the main house with the TV on would not have heard gunshots near the dog kennels. He was also asked about the headlights of Murdaugh's vehicle when he arrived at the kennels and called 911. Sutton says that the area where Maggie and Paul's bodies were found would have been illuminated. During cross-examination, prosecutors questioned Sutton's qualifications.
The bullet's coming in at 41 degrees, kind of from the right, so that represents where the tip of the bullet first touched the cardboard or the fiberboard.
Do you, and I think you already testified this, but you have no formal training or experience or certifications in crime scene investigations, is that correct?
I've answered that. It all comes from experience and my education.
And are you aware that there's a margin of error for the angles that may be measured in a projectile, especially if it's a soft paper product?
Sure. There can be, and also depends on how you measure it.
And we are being joined now by criminal defense attorney Lori Murray. I want to thank her for coming in this evening. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
For those of you who follow her on TikTok, thank you very much. You got close to 500,000 followers, right?
Almost.
Yeah.
463,000.
Increasing because of this Murdaugh trial?
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what happened today. Buster Murdaugh on the stand today,
Right.
A character witness more or less for his father, not unexpected by the defense, right?
No, I think that we knew he was going to testify. What was unexpected to me was that he actually testified first, because you want to start with something strong and then end with something strong. And so now I'm kind of wondering what they're going to end with. Is it going to be Alec's testimony? So I don't know. It wasn't a surprise that he was going to testify, but it was a surprise that he testified first.
And you say Alec's testimony. Do you think Murdaugh needs to take the stand in his own defense?
I thought that he needed to take the stand until they put the OnStar evidence in. And then once they put the OnStar evidence in, I thought there's no way he could take the stand. There's too much damning information that they can cross-examine him with. So the more that the defense puts in, it kind of puts him a little bit more on an even keel. And now I'm back to, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. It's his decision ultimately.
The defense with 2 witnesses today, I believe. Mike Sutton was the other one, the forensic
Right.
expert that they put on the stand, basically saying that somebody really short committed these murders, not not Alec Murdaugh, who's 6'4", but somebody who's like 5'2" or 5'3".
Yeah,
How do you think
pretty
that's-
short.
Yeah, I mean, but again, what do you make of that testimony, and is it going to be something that sticks with the jury?
Well, you know, a lot of people on my social media were saying they just didn't buy it because it was 5'2", and I said, listen, if you don't believe there are 5'2" men out there, go to my dating apps. There are plenty of 5'2" men out there. But, you know, I think that what he did, all of the evidence that he put in today was scientifically backed, and it was testing that you normally see in these true crime, you know, documentaries. Everybody does that trajectory. The sled didn't do it. So I think his testimony was valid and based on some scientific evidence. And you have to, if it's 5'2" is what it comes out to, 5'2", 5'4", then that's what it comes out to.
We discussed this last night here on this program, the angle of the shot that they're trying to say. I think the defense was trying to hint around that maybe perhaps, again, somebody else did the killings, obviously, but at one point I thought they were hinting around that this could have been like a murder-suicide or something.
I thought they were too, because it sounded to me like Dick Harpootlian was trying to make it to where the gunshot was coming from the other direction for Paul, going from the top down. But I think that we just misunderstood the direction that he was going.
Well, since you're new to the program, I thought we would just throw some things out that the prosecution did last week and get you to weigh in on some of that. The prosecution with that evidence, the minute-by-minute tracking of Alec Murdaugh's vehicle the night of the murders. How damaging is that to the defense?
Well, they tried to do a little bit of remediation today with their expert on that. But last week was a very good day for the prosecution. The timing of his car being where Maggie's phone was, speeding up, the 20 seconds, that's huge. And by that I'm referring to the fact that he was at the kennels for 20 seconds before he called 911. That was just everything that day. Everything that came in with the OnStar was a big testimony for the state. And really, it's so interesting to me because, you know, they didn't have that evidence. That evidence came in late.
Right.
And imagine if they didn't have it, we would have a totally different trial right now if they didn't have that evidence.
You're a criminal defense attorney. How do you handle this, though, when it's your turn to address this to the jury? Do you say, well, that's his vehicle? Or do you say, yeah, that's him in the vehicle going to his parents' house? Okay, the times are off here. This doesn't make sense.
Well, I think they've done the only thing they can do, which is to bring in another expert that says no. And the expert today tried to do this, you know, with the location as to where he was with regard to Maggie's phone. So I think the only thing they can do is just to bring in another expert to counteract what their expert is saying. Otherwise, you ignore it, you hide it, you bring something else up, you know, hey, look over here at this shiny object, and just put something else out there like how bad a job SLED did on this case, because it was not a great job that SLED did on this case.
As you know, outside the jury's presence last week, the defense basically talking about that dog kennel video, basically saying, okay, you've proven he was at the dog kennels when he said he wasn't.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the jury will be able for them to decide whether or not they believe the witnesses saying it was his voice on this dog kennel video that we're listening to now. And your opinion, how damaging is this piece of video?
This is the most damning piece of evidence that they have. You know, I called this the big lie from the very beginning, because this is what proved that Alec Murdaugh's alibi was false. This is the one piece of evidence that puts him where the murders happened within minutes of the time of death. So no matter how you look at this tape, it actually destroys his alibi. And I think in his opening statement, his attorney, Dick Harpootlian, actually said, yeah, he might have lied about his alibi. The problem with that is that his attorney, Jim Griffin, got on a national documentary and said, this is his alibi. He was asleep at the house.
Right.
And then you have this dog video that puts him at the location of the murders within minutes of it.
And so many people have testified. Yep, that's Alec Murdaugh. I know the voice. Been around him all my life. Been around him X number of years. I'd recognize that voice anywhere. So, okay, so that's that. The Snapchat video with the change of clothes. That probably won't be as hard for the defense, will it? Because, I mean, there he is the morning of, but then the evening, it's conceivable it could have changed clothes because, I mean, he is outside in the yard right now doing some work there.
It is conceivable, and you know they had Buster testify today that when he got outside that he liked to shower a lot. If you know, it is hot. We're in the South. It's the middle of June, so you know he testified that he changed clothes a lot because he got hot and he got sweaty. He was a big guy. The problem that they're coming in with this is that where are those clothes? Nobody knows where those clothes are, and you know if it was me and I was the defense attorney, I would be saying, well, hey, you asked for them or mentioned them 3 months later. I've got clothes all over the place. He didn't go back to Moselle after that night. So there is a way to get around it, but they're focusing on the fact that he didn't turn them in, and then the state or the defense is saying you didn't ask for them. So I don't know who wins that battle.
You're on TikTok. You've got almost 500,000 people following you now because, in part, because of this trial. We have viewers watching right now in Jerusalem, the UK, Australia, all over the world. People are tuned in.
Yeah.
What is the fascination with this case when it comes to national and worldwide interest in it?
And, you know, I have people popping in on the live videos that I do from all over the place as well. And honestly, I think that it is our trial of the century. It is, there's so much, I don't even know how to say it. Every time you think that you have got the case, there is another twist, there's another turn, there's another layer that's added on top of it. This is the good old boy system of the South. This is the money, you know, the elite that is being torn down, the prominent family name, and it's got murder, it's got financial difficulties, it's got almost everything that a good soap opera could want. And so it's just fascinating. It's really fascinating. And there's so little evidence. It's all circumstantial. So it's really, I think people are just tuned in to see, did he do it? I mean, can you really prove, did he do it?
You know, last night we were talking about possible aha moments in this trial.
Right.
Is there one yet with you? Is there an aha moment when it comes to Alec Murdaugh?
The aha moment for me was, again, that kennel video.
Yeah.
But the second aha moment for me was definitely when I found out that he was only at the kennels for 20 seconds. Because for me, having analyzed this for so long, I've always said, y'all got to stop looking at where's the blood on the blood spatter. And remember, the state gave up trying to prove that there was blood spatter. You got to stop looking at that and look at how clean he is. He went down to check the bodies. He would have more blood on him. There's no, you know, if you saw your family member, you would be down on the ground with your family member. Probably the week before this OnStar evidence came in, I said, I don't even think he went back to the kennel to check on him. I think he might have driven there and just called. And lo and behold, OnStar comes in and proves that I was pretty much right. He was there for 20 seconds. Right. That is not enough time to get out of his car, throw it in park, get out of his car, go check Paul, come back, check Maggie. Remember, he said he tried to roll Paul over. It's not enough time to do all that. So that was a big aha moment for me.
The traces of blood and the DNA of Maggie Murdaugh in the Suburban, in Murdaugh's vehicle. The defense, what are they going to say? Well, he was there, yeah, he was at the crime scene, but remember he drove back to the house.
Right.
Is that how it gets in the vehicle?
I think so. I thought that was, you know, we always call it a nothing burger. Some of the evidence that the state put in, quite frankly, just should not have come in. I mean, not because it should not have been allowed in, but just because it is a distraction from what really matters. And this was one of those things, I think, yes, her blood was in there, but the man said he got out and checked on her. So yes, it should have been in there. Might should have been more.
What do you think the jury, I mean, you read juries, I guess, as a criminal defense attorney. This jury has been bombarded with all kinds of information coming at them from left and right, and they're not taking any notes.
No.
So how would that factor in when it comes judgment time for Alec Murdaugh?
Well, you know, I was told, and I don't know this to be true, but But I was told that they could have asked for notebooks, but they didn't know to ask for notebooks because the state didn't tell them that they could ask for notebooks. But I was in their courtroom one day for a couple of hours before lunch, and I watched the jury. It was funny because somebody behind me said, "So what do you think of the jury?" I saw you watching them. I was really watching them more than I was watching the witness. Two of them on the back row were asleep. They're cuddled up with their blankets because it's freezing cold in there. They are, I think, overwhelmed. And this was the day of the OnStar testimony. So I think they're overwhelmed a little bit. I think the lack of a clear-cut timeline, like during the testimony, having not, at least put it on a whiteboard or something that shows where they were lining up. They did that with the OnStar guy. It was just the entire trial. They were probably completely confused, waiting on them to do that.
One of our reporters, in fact, a couple of weeks ago, reported live on TV that she was observing the jury during some of this testimony, this financial allegations of financial fraud. Some of them were yawning.
Yeah.
Some of them were just kind of like nodding up and down. Some were stretching and just seemed disinterested in some of this information.
It was too much. And I know they wanted the bad act evidence in, but honestly, first of all, talking about that being an actual motive for this trial is a bit of a stretch. A lot of people have said it's a bit of a stretch to say that he would kill his wife and child over, just because he needed a break. And so you have that element of it, and then they put so much of this financial evidence in. So yeah, I would imagine they were, hell, I was bored. I didn't want to watch it anymore. I was, zoning out myself. So I think that definitely it was too much information. They could have shortened that up and made their point.
The motive, you mentioned that, to buy more time because of possible financial crimes, missing money. I mean, that's the motive to kill your wife and your son, according to the state's
According to
case.
them.
Right.
I think, this is the thing and the problem that they had. They wanted the bad act evidence in. The only way that bad act evidence comes in is through motive. So they made up this motive to make it fit the narrative so that they could get these financial crimes in. If it was me, I would want that bad evidence in, but I would also want to say, look, I don't know why he did it. I can't tell you. Motive is not required in the state of South Carolina. We don't have to prove why he did it. Nobody will ever know why he did it other than him, but we know he did it. So that would be the point that I would make. I can't tell you why. I can just tell you he did.
Have you gone back and forth with this case? At first, were you thinking one way and then you thought another and then you went back to another way of thinking, or have you had the same thought the whole time?
I have had the same thought the whole time, but the rationale behind my thought has changed several times.
How is that?
I know he was there. I know that he was part of it. I don't know what the motive would have been. I don't know. Was it financial crimes? Was it a cartel hit? Was it, there's a rumor that the Alex's father ordered a hit. There's several different rumors. There was the affair. Maggie had the other DNA under her fingernails. So all of these things, I'm like, I don't know. Why did he do it? But this entire time, until today, actually, I mean, when you get this expert in there that testifies that somebody that's 5'2", 5'4", then you start bringing that cartel theory back in because they're generally shorter than Caucasians. So yeah, I mean, I just know that he was there. The problem is that the state has to prove more than that he was just there. They have to prove, because they have stuck with this entire one person, one gun, or two guns, one person murders. They have to prove that he pulled the trigger.
Right.
So I don't know that you can do that with the expert that came in today.
Overall, how do you think the state has done when it comes to presenting their case?
I don't think either side has done exceptionally well.
Really?
No. I think that it was funny. I think that Dick Harpootlian asked for this speedy trial to catch the state off guard, and it backfired and caught him off guard too. So I think they're all unorganized. The order of the witnesses being called, the questions that they're being asked, the lack of questions that they're being asked, the investigation having not been completed because they were forced into this speedy trial because he brought the indictment too fast. Yeah, I don't think either one of them has, I think, and as a lawyer, and I think if you asked 10 lawyers in the state of South Carolina about this case, they would say we were so looking forward to seeing some really good lawyering, and we have not seen that.
The defense says they hope to wrap their case up by late Friday afternoon. So between now and Friday afternoon, What do you expect? More character witnesses on the stand, their own experts to testify about the crime scene itself? What's coming?
I think you're going to see at least 1 to 2 more experts. I think you're going to have somebody come in and back up what the expert said today. But a couple more experts, probably another ballistics expert. And then you'll get more into character evidence. The brothers will testify, at least John Marvin, especially because John Marvin was present for a lot of the investigation. He was walking right beside the sled agent when she searched the house. So he'll testify. Then you have to decide whether Elliot's going to testify. But yeah, it should be interesting to see how they get from A to B in this case.
And if the defense goes until late Friday, I'm assuming if it does indeed follow that timeline, closing would be probably on Monday, or would they just go into the evening and keep going?
I think Judge Newman has been very respectful of the jury's time and very respectful of the amount of time they've been sitting. He doesn't give a lot of breaks, if you hadn't noticed that. There's one morning break, one afternoon break. It's a long time to sit. So I think that he'll be respectful of their time and their weekend and allow them to come back on Monday and close.
It's going to be an interesting week to see what happens. Will Alec Murdaugh take the stand? I guess time's going to tell, won't it?
Like I said, it's his decision. I think his attorneys can advise him as to whether he should take the stand, but ultimately that decision is his.
All right, criminal defense attorney Lori Murray on TikTok. People can find you there.
It's Lawyer Lori on TikTok.
Lawyer Lori on
Yes.
TikTok. All
Thank
right,
you.
there you go. All right, testimony will resume tomorrow morning at 9:30. We've got you covered. You can watch on WLTX Plus. You can watch on our YouTube page. You can also watch on WLTX.com. Our team will be there, and we will have full coverage tomorrow evening right here on News 19. We'll see you then.